Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is an exciting time for both A+ Technology and for Maximum Security as we're forming a new partnership called Virtual Guarding. And we're going to talk to you today about the service that basically we're looking to protect you more and you get to spend less. For today's session, we are going to record it, so we'll have this to send to everybody after the event. Everyone is on mute, so we do ask that if you have any questions or any comments, put them in the chat feature. And we're going to have a live Q&A at the end of the session. So with that, I would like to introduce today's speakers. First, we have David Antar. He is the president of A+ Technology and Security. And David's going to get into the technology that's behind virtual guarding. We also have with us today Charlie Tramontana. He's the CEO. I got it, Charlie. I got it. So Charlie's the CEO of Maximum Security. And Charlie's going to talk about what they do differently from a guard perspective and how he's going to tie in all this new technology for you to provide better service. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to this exciting presentation. So with that, David, you want to take it away?
Sure, and thank you, Rick, and welcome everybody. We're actually really excited to be presenting this to you. We've been working on this technology for a long time, and it's really ready for prime time in a big way. So we're very, very excited, and we're very excited with the partnership with Maximum Security and ourselves. So just to give you a little background on the company, on A+. I had started the company 32 years ago. We started as an IT company and evolved into what we consider to be a convergence company. We do IT, audiovisual, and physical security solutions, along with quite a few IoT solutions. We were into IoT before people realized what IoT was when we considered ourselves a convergence company. In the New York metro area, we're one of the largest providers of security into K-12 schools. We do hundreds of K-12 school districts in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and are looked at as a national expert on safe schools with a lot of the technology we bring to them. In addition to that, we do a lot of higher ed institutions, things like Stony Brook with over 3,000 cameras. We do 14 of the 24 CUNY schools in New York City. So we have a lot of expertise in large enterprise installations. On top of that, we do a lot of commercial customers and a lot of government offices like New York City Office of Emergency Management, Homeland Security at JFK Airport, and Suffolk County PD, where we formed an incredible partnership to be able to bring emergency events to the police department with a system that was put in place there to tie school districts and eventually businesses into that. We have a lot of industry expertise. We have a sister company called IP Video Corporation, and IP Video has developed some very unique solutions that we've sold through dealers all over the world. We have over 800 dealers for some of our solutions that include a lecture capture recording system we use for police interrogation rooms across the country. Another product that's a walk-through metal detector that we've developed and sell through our dealer base, which is tied into the video surveillance system, which is actually also tied into remote guarding, which is kind of neat. And then a very, very cool product called Halo that we developed and is probably the most awarded product in the entire security industry. We have over 32 awards for Halo, and Halo is an IoT smart sensor with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And ironically, we tie this also into our remote guarding, and I'll explain that a little bit later in the presentation. But Halo does vape detection, vape with THC, advanced smoke detection, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, methane, propane, natural gas detection, chemical detection, temperature, humidity, air pressure, light levels. And then on top of that, it has a whole audio side for things like gunshot detection, keyword detection, where it can wake on an emergency and alert us in our command center. Just some very, very cool features. The newest thing that we're releasing on it is going to be two-way communications during an emergency event. And again, that's going to be tying into our command center. Every one of our instances of doing virtual guarding is going to include our Halo smart sensor into it. And it really is a big differentiator in doing that. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Charlie for him to talk a little bit about Maximum Security, our partner. We had built our command center about 7 years ago. And about 3 years ago, we formed a partnership with Maximum Security, and they staff our 24/7 command center. And now we're ready to release this to the public under our virtual guarding, and we're really excited about it. So Charlie, if you don't mind, if you can tell everybody a little bit about Maximum Security.
Thank you, David. And it's great to be here. It is a very exciting time in security. So I welcome the opportunity to be able to talk to everyone today. A little bit about Maximum Security. We formed Maximum about 19 years ago. Myself and my partners, Mike Mancusi and Jason Paglino, we all worked together in law enforcement at the time. And then we were lucky enough to bring on another partner, Peter McGinn, also from a law enforcement background. So currently, two of us are still employed in law enforcement, myself and my other partner, Jason, and the other two guys are lucky enough to be retired and run Maximum full-time with our assistants. We've grown to over 300 employees. We encompass all different aspects of the security field, whether it be gated communities, car dealerships, commercial properties, office parks, things of that nature. And we've always tried to incorporate technology coupled with our guards to try and have a hybrid model. And now with our strategic partnership with A+, we're going to take that to the next level. We were definitely planning on doing this for a while because we saw the way the labor market has been going. And we're going to talk about that a little more in depth because our goal is to provide the best comprehensive security program, but it has to be cost effective. And we recognized that early on with changes that were taking place. So that was really what was motivating us. And when we partnered up with A+, we knew we were in the right place. As you're going to see throughout the program, they're masters at integration and utilizing all different technologies to accomplish our goals. And when we bring this all together and have that hybrid model of technology coupled with personnel, I think you see that we're going to have the type of security that's really going to protect properties, make people feel secure, and also do it in a way that saves money. So we're excited to do that, and we'll start the program so we have a lot of information, so we're looking forward to getting it to you. So the first part of it was recognizing the problem. And I'll jump around a little bit here, but we saw, as I started to alluding to, the cost of labor. Having 300 plus security guards is a very labor intensive proposition. And really the genesis for looking for technology solutions came from the Affordable Care Act. So we had a federal mandate came down and we had a lot of labor. And we said, we're going to have to look at a way to try and manage the cost of labor. So that's when we were already looking to some technology solutions. Couple that with now in New York State, the legislation of the minimum wage going up to $15 an hour. We still haven't gotten to that part where we're at $15 an hour. And already there's been ripple effects throughout the labor market. If you think about it, say an entry level position as a security officer, say if they were making $12, $13 an hour, we always tried to stay ahead of the minimum wage to get the most qualified personnel. But if we had a supervisory position at $15 an hour, now if the minimum wage is going to be $15 an hour, you can see the kind of domino effect where they're going to want to get paid if they're in a supervisory position. So we still haven't fully felt the impact of this legislation as of yet. So that's when we turn to how can we utilize technology to mitigate that? How can we get the best of both worlds? And it isn't every day when you're able to do that, but I really feel comfortable in that as we outline throughout this presentation, you're going to see how we're able to provide really good security at an affordable cost. And you don't get the best of both worlds that often, but it looks like we're finally achieving that. So that was the big problem there, coupled with some of these other problems where we talk about video in general. Now, I'm sure, in 2021, I know I'm gonna bounce back and forth between HOAs and gated communities because I know we have a lot of registrants. I miss the days when I could say everybody from an HOA raise your hand, but this is the nature of the world today. We do have some commercial clients as well, so I'll bounce back and forth. But everybody has video. Video is a very valuable tool. In law enforcement, we used to say it's not the end all be all, right? It was a really valuable investigative tool, but that was kind of after the fact when there was an incident. So we wanted to go to a more proactive use of video. And now it's going to another level where we're going to really be interacting with people. So we've taken it to a whole higher level. So in the past, maybe we had a video system where we'd go back to see what had occurred and when, maybe ascertain some information as far as a description of a person that broke in or did some vandalism, things of that nature. Then we took it to the point where if we had a guard in a booth and we had some cameras, we'd pipe it into the guard booth so that the guard could take a look at maybe a different area. But now when David starts explaining the technology with the software and what these systems can do as far as detecting, it's really a force multiplier in that the guard can do so many different tasks. And that's why we said you can't be everywhere and see everything. But with this technology, we're really going to be able to start to do that. So as far as you see at the bottom, when we're talking about all these different instances, I mean, a guard, even if he's making his rounds, if he's on his way to go check one location, he's not at that other location, right? And if there's someone with ill intent and they want to do something, they might have a lookout. With the systems we have in the command center, and the type of technology David's going to outline for you, we're going to be able to react and see what's going on and then take action. And it's going to happen in a very quick time frame. We're going to be able to either get on a loudspeaker and say you've been detected. We're going to be able to notify police. And then being in law enforcement, I get to see this in real time now. See, I'll put my law enforcement hat sometimes on while we're having this presentation, but I see what happens in the real world. And I think that's what we kind of bring to the table through Maximum Security. We have that real world experience. It's got to make sense. It's got to work in the real world. And if it's not practical, we're not going to do it. So that's where we're going to try and combine all these different things to mitigate and be very cost effective. So you see some of the advantages here for property managers. Restore tenant confidence. Nowhere has that been more valid than during COVID. We have a lot of people very upset. The world is changing. This is an unprecedented pandemic. So we have to have people confident that they're secure in their homes, in their buildings, in their places of work. So it's, you know, sometimes we talk about the perception of security. We want to show people that it's a comprehensive security plan that is going to restore people's confidence and feel secure and know that they are secure. Reduced operating expenses, that's everything. And we're not going to talk about 5 or 10%. We're talking about some substantial savings, because when we get out of that realm where we don't have as much labor and we can utilize the technology effectively, we're talking about substantial savings. Effective facility security. That's what I started alluding to. We're going to be able to cover more ground than we ever were before. But what I like about the combination of the technology with Maximum Security is that, again, I'm going to talk about this hybrid model. If we need manpower, if we need boots on the ground, we're going to be able to respond with security officers if that's need be. Or we could even have a combination. Maybe we have some patrols with the security officers while also utilizing the technology. So whatever we really need to do, we're going to be able to get you a comprehensive plan. Improve tenant amenities. Now more than ever, let's say we have a policy where people can't be in a certain area due to COVID policy, and they don't follow the policy. You could cause a shutdown, say at the gym in a complex. Somebody goes in the gym and didn't follow the proper procedure, they may end up having to shut that facility down to decontaminate it. If we have these policies and procedures in place with the appropriate monitoring, we're going to prevent that kind of shutdown and hence be more efficient and keep everybody happy. So it's all going to tie into the operational plans that'll be custom tailored to the property. We'll sit down with whoever is in charge as far as property managers or HOA boards, whatever client, whatever the needs of the client. I think it's crucially important that we have a comprehensive plan to meet those needs. And that's where the technology, I'll let David go into some of the aspects of the technology that enable us to achieve that.
Thanks, Charlie, and that was well said. And really, you know, the differentiator from this is that every camera is if you had a actual security guard where that camera existed, because we start to use artificial intelligence. And, you know, this gives a little bit of an example of how we're able to take the hardware that we install on a client's existing camera system. So we don't need to put new camera systems in. If they have an existing camera system, we can just connect to that and be able to pull those streams on events, but we only pull back to our command center events that the artificial intelligence have determined should come back to us. So we actually manage our workload for our operators in our command center to be able to just deal with events as opposed to have to just look at cameras. It's a known fact that a security operator looking at live cameras, if they were looking at 20, 30, 40 cameras, after 6 to 8 minutes, they're staring off into space. So what we've done is we now take every camera, add artificial intelligence to it, and it starts to analyze what's going on in that scene based on rules we've set. And those rules could be based on time. We could say that we only want to guard a car dealership from 9 p.m. to 6 in the morning. And during those hours, we're monitoring for certain activities. It could be loitering. It could be somebody that's causing damage to a vehicle. It could be something we call line cross, and we'll go through those in a little bit more detail. So it's basically implementing some hardware that we put on site that ties into an existing or new camera system. And then from there, we bring that back to our command center and we provide things like remote concierge service. So as an example, we can be in somebody's front lobby and have one of our security guards displayed on a screen where they're actually looking at a real guard that's in our command center and have an actual two-way conversation with them. So we have the ability to be able to open up that line of communications and have open intercoms and be able to talk to them. We also can provide back to the owner standardized reporting. So we have a weekly, daily report that can go out to our clients, being able to show the events and how we handled them, the time that we responded to them. So now you have an audit trail to the events. And the big difference is the cameras don't miss anything. A human can easily miss an event. They could be looking in a different direction. They could just not be paying attention at that moment. The cameras pick up everything that we've trained them to do with the artificial intelligence. And what that leads onto, is obviously our ability to provide a better experience for a customer than a physical guard, or a better experience than if they were just virtual. We actually are able to combine those two, where in a hybrid solution, we can actually have roving security guards that are within a short distance of the event. And during an emergency, we actually have those security guards go on site, or we notify the police. So we have what we call our post orders that each one of our operators in our center follows during different types of events. And they either notify our roving security guard, or they notify the police, or they notify the owner, depending on the severity of the situation. So we're really excited about the combination of technology. So, right now, each one of our cameras is equipped with artificial intelligence and deep learning to be able to understand what's going on and be able to make those alerts back to us. Our guards then have the opportunity to be able to look at those events, and they get an 8-second clip of what happened. And during that 8 seconds, they determine whether this is a real event or whether this is a false alarm. And very often they're false alarms, but we're able to filter through those. And that's where the guards take 5 to 20 seconds to be able to analyze that. Next step is our rapid response, where we either engage our the potential perpetrator with two-way audio communications, or we notify the owner or notify the police, depending on the severity of the situation. Or if we have a hybrid solution, we can notify our roving security guards to be on site. So if you look at this whole thing from the time it starts, milliseconds for the alert to come to us, 5 to 20 seconds of analysis, another 10 to 30 seconds for engaging with the person, whether it's through two-way audio communications or notifying people. And then we escalate as needed. We have our post orders that, again, tell us what we need to do from an escalation point of view. So with that, I have a short video on our remote guarding, so enjoy this video.
Are you ready to increase the level of safety and security at your facility or on your property? What if there was a way to provide better guarding that is more cost efficient? Virtual Guarding provides remote guarding and concierge services to a wide range of facilities and properties. Our artificial intelligence and advanced video analytics turn every camera into a security guard that's watching for activity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. In today's world, maintaining social distance to prevent the spread of disease is critically important for everyone. Remote guarding eliminates that concern. Don't rely on your eyes alone. Increase your on-site safety and security. Reduce your costs and provide your staff, your guests, and your tenants with peace of mind. Protect more, spend less. Virtual Guarding, your partner in property safety and security.
So, we wanted to talk, and Charlie and I are going to kind of address, who benefits from virtual guarding. And really, the reality is that almost everybody has a potential use for it. But I'm going to let, Charlie go through, some of the typical vertical markets that we sell our virtual guarding service into. And then, I'll talk about how, we implement slightly different technology for each one of those. So Charlie, go ahead and take that.
Thanks, David. Currently Maximum Security provides security at over 30 gated communities on Long Island. So we focused heavily initially on the gated community market. And again, being practical people in law enforcement, we thought, well, what's the easiest way for us to start getting some cost savings? And we thought about on the overnight shift. All right, we're providing 24/7 security in a lot of these gated communities, 168 hours a week. How can we save money? How can we reduce labor costs? And we thought about the overnight shift. And again, to be very frank and honest with you, we have a security guard in that booth, and he's really not doing much on that entire shift. He might have 1 or 2 entries for the whole tour. So we thought about it, and we went to David and we said, if you give us the technology, we could remove that guard from the booth and do this whole transaction remotely and save some money for the client. So that's what we did. Now we try to anticipate, people are going to say, well, what if somebody walks around the gate? But as David's going to show you, the additional technology in sensor technology and things of that nature to detect that, coupled all together, is going to show you how we can provide the level of security that people are going to be comfortable with and save that money. So it's always this, in one respect, there's a trade-off, but it's a trade-off that's in a good way. We're going to be ahead of where we were before. If you think practically, even a guard in a booth, in some locations, they like to have the lights on and they're beautiful guard booths with all these beautiful windows. But if the lights are on in the booth at night, it really limits the guard's visibility. So now we're going to have the type of technology that can actually detect people better than a human. So again, we're going to have that perception of, you might not have the guard in the booth, but when we are able to show the communities through a presentation or through some way of getting this message out, that we're going to have better security than we actually had before, and you're going to be saving money. So it truly is a win-win type concept. So
And the challenge, I'm sorry, Charlie, but
yeah, no, it's okay.
yeah, the challenge here also was to have the residents be able to experience something very similar to having the physical security guard there. And part of our vision for this, and with the technology we're implementing, it's going to be better than having that security guard there, because they'll have the ability to be able to interact with somebody on video and be able to talk to that person just like we're presenting to you, through Zoom right now. They'll have that ability to be able to communicate with video with a security operator that's in there. And that security operator can also do visitor screening. They can also handle package delivery. So there's a whole bunch of different, benefits we get from this. And the beauty of this is that that operator doesn't miss anything, because the technology alerts them. And we also have an audit trail for the owners, the property owners, to be able to see that the audit trail of everything that happened. And we have a timestamp record of people coming onto that facility through that gated community.
Right, David. So you're gonna have the personal touch of interacting with the human, and yet you're gonna have the technology backing them up to ensure the security as well. And think about, in the COVID environment, we actually had concerns about people that didn't want to interact with the security guard, whether it was being asked to show their ID. Now, if you held your ID up and the camera captured that, there's no threat of COVID or infection. And people, of course, we had a lot of 55 and over communities, the most vulnerable of populations. The last thing they wanted to do was have contact with people. So there's another advantage. There's definitely more advantages than people even think of right off the bat. David mentioned something before about verification if an alarm is in fact true. If you think of our commercial customers, in most of the municipalities now, you'll get a fine for false alarms. Well, instead of having the alarms central station notify the law enforcement, we could just check the cameras to detect whether or not was that a true alarm. Is there a condition that we need law enforcement, thereby saving any fines? So there's a lot of added value to these systems.
As a matter of fact, in certain states, like in Las Vegas and Nevada, the police will not respond to an alarm unless it's been verified through video or by an individual seeing it and verifying that they're actually seeing an alarm in progress. So they do not respond to burglar alarms there. And that's going to happen across the country, that more police departments are not going to be responding to false alarms. So this is a video verification service to be able to notify that this is a real event that the police need to respond to. The other thing that we can do in the gated communities is be able to release that gate, obviously. So we have full control of the gate from a remote location to be able to release that. The next is for campus environments. And that's where our expertise is. As I mentioned earlier, we're in hundreds of K-12 school districts and a huge number of universities in the New York metro area. So we have a lot of expertise in understanding what the issues are that schools encounter. And we're able to cover very, very large areas that even if they did have roving security guards, more than likely they're going to be at the wrong end of the building when an event's happening there. We're able to cover the entire building with artificial intelligence and with those cameras to be able to do that. Other things that we can do into school environments or education is we can monitor for social distancing. Our artificial intelligence can also be trained to look for social distancing alerts and be able to notify us. And because we have two-way audio communications through speakers, loudspeaker systems and intercoms, we can actually communicate to people to warn them of potential issues. And then obviously, for mass notification during emergency events, we have the ability to be able to communicate over all of those speakers and actually communicate during mass communications events.
And
The other
that's such an advantage, David. I think a lot of people don't even realize that having that capability for communications in an emergency, that's everything. On the law enforcement side, that's what we want to know. We want to get live intel, find out what's going on, and be able to tell people what we need them to do as quickly and efficiently as possible. So it's a real game changer.
Yep, absolutely. Next one is unmanned locations, car dealership, construction sites. We've talked to several car dealerships recently, and they've had a huge number of thefts. With COVID going on, it seems like thefts are going up dramatically, whether they're stealing entire vehicles or whether they're stealing catalytic converters or other wheels and rims. So we're finding a huge upswing in thefts onto those unmanned sites as people are trying to find better ways to secure that. And our technology works perfectly. Again, that artificial intelligence, every camera is like having a manned security post where every single camera is, and it's alerting us. And it's 24/7, we can provide over, hours that they're closed, and be able to alert with two-way audio communications again. And very often we have roving guards for those car dealerships that have multiple locations. It now becomes much more cost effective to have one security guard handling all 3 or 4 or 5 of their locations and be able to then get all the alerts through our command center, as well as our ability to be able to notify the police. We are doing also construction sites with it. People are stealing copper from construction sites. It's really going up dramatically, the number of incidents that are there. And now we monitor those construction sites and get the alerts when events are happening. And the big one is commercial buildings. They want to now put greeters and security personnel into these buildings. We can do this virtually, not put people in harm's way. We can scan for temperature screening if we need to. We can handle package deliveries. And obviously traditional visitor access all can be handled virtually and be done more efficiently. And it just is a great experience. The whole thing with this was to make this a similar experience to having a person there, but to make it more efficient and more cost effective. And I think that's what we've been able to accomplish with this. Anything else you have to add to that, Charlie?
No, just a real quick specific example with respect to car dealerships. That week when the COVID shutdowns occurred, you can imagine the stress that was on our clients. And one of them called us up and said, we were just told we have to shut down. We have this huge inventory. They were kind of in a panic mode and called up A+, and they had a pretty substantial camera infrastructure set up. We were able to pipe that into our command center, and we had monitoring up and running in less than an hour. And you can imagine that really put them at ease, knowing they weren't going to have staff on site and they had all this inventory. And now we were able to, they were concerned if we had to send guards there, what that was going to cost them, because now they're not selling any product, they're not selling any cars, they're in shutdown mode, but yet they had to protect that inventory. So we switched immediately to camera monitoring and the virtual guarding and kind of saved the day. So it's such a practical solution.
It is. That's the beauty of this technology, is we can convert somebody very, very quickly, especially if they have an existing camera system. We can convert them within a couple of days to be live and back into our command center on a permanent basis. If we had to just pull the video, we can obviously pull that within hours if necessary. But it's a great way to get people to have a much more secure environment. So, what are the benefits? Charlie, you want to just handle those real quick?
Yeah. As I've been alluding to all the time here, it's definitely cost. We know that's a primary concern, but we never want to forget we have to have the security. Again, being in law enforcement, it's got to make sense. We know what goes on in the world there, and there's been a lot of turmoil in the past year. There's been a lot of fear, so we have to make sure everybody is confident and comfortable, especially when you're living in some of these beautiful complexes. People have to know the security is there. So we're going to keep those HOA fees in check by being able to have you project those costs over a longer period of time. And I know a lot of you are probably already thinking, well, to have all this technology, I'm sure it's a substantial cost, but we've actually considered that. And we've talked about rolling it into the price as a lease so that we could spread the cost out so you're not having those big upfront costs, build it into an affordable model where we can get the technology installed, get you up and running, and be able to do all these great things. So we're right back to the mode where we can deter crimes. A big thing is having that speaker. If you look in the picture, you see that speaker there. And that's something, if you saw someone that was about to trespass and somebody gets on there, knows a live operator sees them, says, you've been detected. You can have a pre-recorded message, or we could go live. Say, you've been detected. We're notifying the police. You can imagine the shock on the bad guy when all of a sudden he realizes, hey, I'm actually being watched. we always felt that there was a real deterrent effect of just seeing cameras, but especially in COVID now, everybody's wearing a mask. So they think they're not going to be able to be identified. But if they know they're detected right at that moment and that the police are on their way, then that's going to get them to flee the area. And hopefully we can apprehend them by having a description and things of that nature. But we want to keep the HOA fees in check. Property managers, we want to be able to have a little less stress on you, knowing how those budgets are going to work and keep those operational costs low. And then that's going to really help people's property values stay in check and just have that overall plan, good security, cost effective. I know I've said it before, but it really is a win-win. It's the best of both worlds.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's a win-win. It really is kind of a no-brainer. It's going to reduce costs, better efficiency, and you end up with a better user experience at the end of the day. So with that, I want to show you what the technology looks like. A picture's worth 1,000 words. So we're going to zoom in and see what our security guards are seeing back in our command center. So this is a short little demo of the technology. So you get a little bit of idea of what it looks like. So this is the screen coming up that the security guards see. And basically alerts come up as tiles on the screen right now. And they can actually see that there's a person moving in an area in this particular one. We're in monitor mode right now. Has the ability for us to look back for 1 day. So we're looking at the last 24 hours, but we can also go back 30 days or just 1 hour. And our alerts come up here until we clear them. So we have the ability, as an event comes up, we have the ability to be able to click on this event, determine whether it's a real event or not. Once we determine whether it's a false alarm or whether it's a true one. If it is a true event, then we follow our protocol, our post orders to be able to notify whether it's first responders or whether it's the owners of the facility. But you can see how everyone is a time-stamped short video clip that's here. And you're going to see in a few seconds where we have the ability to be able to, this is where the artificial intelligence picked up this person. Nobody had to interact on this. And it shows over here that it's a person coming in, moving in an area. So it's actually the alert that was set up for this particular one. This is how I can look at it in list form rather than looking at those tiles. I can look at a list of all the events, and then they also prioritize based on high level, medium level, or low level alerts based on how we program the system. So again, this is all part of the setup. This is kind of shows you an event of a car coming into a parking lot after hours. And we're able to actually pick this up right now. Here's the video clip. Here's where we choose whether it's a false alarm or whether it is, in fact, something that requires either our notification over the IP speakers or whether we notify the owner, or in this case, the police on that particular situation. And again, this gives you the idea of how we can mark things as true. This is a construction site that we're actually monitoring. And you can see there's a person. You can barely see it in here, but the artificial intelligence is actually picking up that there's a person there in that camera and triggers the alert to us to be able to do it. This case was already closed, but you can see how we can reopen a case. And we can also zoom in on the site. Here's somebody that we're seeing on kind of a night vision where it's using thermal imaging to be able to see that individual there. But just amazing technology that allows us to really be a force multiplier. A security guard sitting in a booth could never do this. It's like having 12 security guards. If you had 12 cameras, it's like having 12 security guards on your property. So with that, we're going to turn it over to questions and answers. And I believe we've been getting quite a few questions, and I'm going to let Rick jump back in and kind of moderate it.
Yeah, we don't have the issue of not having questions, David. So they were flying. So let me get started. First of all, if you have existing cameras, do you need to replace them, or can you utilize this with the system?
I'll take that on, Rick. So the great news is with this technology, whether you have analog or whether you have IP cameras, we can connect to almost every camera system that's out there, unless it's super, super proprietary. But 95% of the systems out there, by putting a piece of hardware on site, we call it a gateway. It allows us to communicate with your camera systems that exist and brings it back and starts doing the artificial intelligence on the edge, on your property. And this way, we don't even use a tremendous amount of bandwidth because all we're bringing back are the events. We're not bringing continuous streaming back to the system. So yeah, that's a great question. And absolutely, we can utilize your existing systems, and that's what keeps the cost down to it.
All right. Next question: how do your guards and respond to police under virtual guarding? I guess Charlie, you want to take that one?
Yeah, as far as, I don't know if I fully understand the question, respond to police. I don't know if they mean by contacting the police.
Yeah, it looks like contact or dispatch.
Okay, yeah, same as if the guard were in the booth. Now we're getting all that information. We will contact the appropriate authorities. And the best part is if we're monitoring something live, we can give them consistent updates. So I've actually had that on the law enforcement side. Let's say with a car dealership, we had the operator live telling our dispatcher, all right, no, the person's on the south side of the building. So the responding officers could actually respond appropriately. Instead of just getting a call and us having to figure it out, if that operator in the command center is live watching what's going on, they can keep updating us. So you can imagine what an efficient tool that is for law enforcement. So the interaction between security and law enforcement is at a whole higher level at that point.
And a follow-up question to that, Charlie, does the police charge for that when we contact them and they come out?
No, it'd be the same as if a security guard would call 911. That's just anyone calling 911, alerting the police to a crime in progress or a suspicious person or anything of that nature. There's not going to be any charge. It's not going to go direct. We're going to have our operator contacting the police. So
that's actually a good point. If your burglar alarm went off and triggered an alarm to the police department, you're going to get charged for that event if it's a false alarm. When you're calling 911, there's no charge for 911s because it's a verified event. So kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier.
Okay, next question. Can you explain the package delivery for multi-tenant? What's available under that option?
Sure. So I'll take that. So, the goal with it is that we will have a greeter, in essence, virtually in the entrance to a multi-tenant building. And that greeter that's there electronically will actually be able to talk to UPS or FedEx or whoever the delivery person is. If there is a package delivery room, we'll escort them virtually by going to the next camera as they go into that new room and watch them as they put the package there. And or notify the tenant. We have the ability with two-way communications to be in communications with that person, the UPS driver, the FedEx, along with connecting that call, because we have a virtual PBX that allows us to make phone calls directly to the tenant and actually tell them you have a package delivery and connect them with that delivery operator if necessary. So we really are taking this technology to another level with some unique pieces that we're bringing to this. And it's not just about looking at video events, it's about linking the audio, the video, and the ability to have the equivalent of a PBX for making and receiving phone calls.
Thank you, David.
Sure.
How do you interact with facilities departments after hours?
So I'm not sure what the question is on there, but typically we have what we call our post orders, and our post orders are all the contact information we need for every type of event that can happen on every camera. So we're going to be contacting people's, whether it's their cell phone numbers or through text or however we've been instructed to alert. And then on top of that, we have a whole escalation process. So if we aren't able to make that contact or aren't able to do things, everything has an escalation process. And that's what we're really excited about, is being able to kind of bring all these technologies together, video, audio, and a whole command structure with the post orders of all the things we follow. We're bringing that all together under a single platform, which is what's so unique for our customers.
And Rick, an added benefit, if everybody thinks about it for a second, in the old days, I guess sometimes somebody would be designated as a representative to have to go check on a situation. If we can verify that everything's okay, they're not getting out of bed at 4 a.m. and going to their facility to find out that everything's okay. If we have that capability, we could avoid that.
Yeah, one other thing, again, we look for a two-level authentication when possible. So as an example, I mentioned about Halo being an IoT smart sensor. It can trigger alerts when we have certain events going on in the building, whether it's a loud noise, it was a gunshot, or whatever the event is. And now we have our cameras for the video verification of that. We call it, two-factor authentication. It's no different than your two-factor authentication when you log on to a network and you get a text to your phone. We're doing it with video and other sources, so we don't just depend on one alert source, whether it's a burglar alarm or an access control system or something else providing an alarm. We have a two-factor authentication to it, and that's why the police love, when we're calling them with detailed information on an event, and that's where Halo plays a big role into this as we start to put those sensors into people's facilities.
Yeah, we got a number of questions about guests coming to a facility. So how do you contact the residents? How do you screen for health? How do you check for COVID, temperature, all these things? I'll try to group them together and each of you can answer. So that's currently how you're doing it with live guards. How do we do this in the virtual environment?
Yeah, I'll take that as far as the gated communities guard booths go. The transaction really is going to be virtually the same. Someone would pull up, we would detect that they pulled up by nature of some of the equipment, whether it be the camera alerting. David will probably talk a little bit about the radar detection as well. But we would know someone's there. We could greet them. welcome to whichever complex. How can we help you? We're going to have that two-way audio. They're going to tell us, I'm here to see the Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We'll say, okay, we'll check the database like we currently do to see if they're on a permanent guest list to allow them entry without a phone call, as per the orders of the board at that particular community. And then we would ask them for their ID. Again, we'd verify it through the camera and make sure they are who they say they are. And then we would release the gate as appropriate. If not, we would deny them entry the same as if a guard were there. So it'd be virtually the same transaction.
Absolutely. And I'll add a little bit more to that where we even automate this a little bit further when we have large residential units or commercial buildings where we use a visitor system that ties into the ability for them to be able to press a button to communicate with the person they want to visit. If that person isn't there, then it can escalate and come back to our command center. So we become the backup to the visitor management system, that the automated visitor management system. And we've now integrated some of our technology that becomes the concierge button. So they can just push this button and it will automatically contact our command center. And then they have the two-way dialogue going. And then from our command center, we have the ability to add the tenant into a phone call or a conversation that we're having with them. So it really kind of automates that whole process and makes it touchless on top of that, which is really exciting because everybody's looking for now contactless ways to be able to get visitors into buildings. By adding some of the components where we have downloadable apps and technology, people can actually pre-register to come on property. And when they show up at our facility, we can automate that process through our virtual guards overseeing it. So it's
Rick, let me just take that to a commercial customer that we had experience with.
Yeah, that was my next one.
I saw a pop-up on that.
A commercial, and how do you handle that?
So we had a commercial client with the campus. They were a manufacturer of sensitive goods. So they had a guard booth, and what they found was really the influx was workers at specific times. They didn't have many visitors to their facility. So they didn't want to have a guard out in the guard booth all day long when they just really had to handle the workers coming in and the occasional delivery. So what we saw was a good way to save money. We would have the guard booth staffed at those hours, and then the guard would then shift to other duties, and then we could then take over virtually. Or we could combine it where the guard would monitor the booth and actually release the gate and then go for other duties at that point. And we would take over virtually, say there was a visitor. So there's a whole host of combinations where we could utilize the virtual as needed and customize it. If you think about it, if you only need a guard for a short period of time, no guard company is going to have a guard for, say, 1 or 2 hour shift. There's usually minimums involved. So to use that labor effectively, we were able to, as if there was more guards, we could use the virtual as a backup, as supplement, and make a custom program for that corporate client for their campus.
One other thing I'll add to that also, another piece of the automation that we do is license plate recognition. We can set up license plate recognition at HOAs or large commercial buildings where we recognize the plate and can control a gate to open or close based on the known visitors. When we detect a plate we don't recognize, that triggers an event to our operator that can then have a two-way communications with that person and determine whether that visitor is authorized onto the property.
Yeah, there were a number of questions also about what happens when the power goes out, because we're utilizing technology at this point.
Sure. Great question, and I'll take that. And all of our systems are on UPS and or power over Ethernet. So many of our cameras are connected to power over Ethernet switches, and the switches are typically on UPSs and batteries. So we very often will continue to run. The only thing we do require is a network connection. So if your network is out and you don't have that on a UPS, then that's the only problem that can actually occur. As long as your internet is still functional, and very often people have lost electricity, and as long as they have their router on a UPS, then they continue to function with internet connection. And as long as we have an internet connection and we're working off of either battery or generator at a facility, we're still going to function. Our own command center, though, has a huge amount of redundancy built into it. And the fact that we've leveraged the cloud for our command center, we can literally operate our command center from anywhere. And our own command center is set with natural gas generators that can run continuously. During Hurricane Sandy, we were up for 2 weeks on generator. So we can run continuously. And we also have redundant sites. Our Bridgeport head office that we have also becomes a redundant site for this, as well as the fact that we can work just like people are working virtually from home. We can have our operators work from remote sites if necessary during an emergency event.
And then again, the best part of having this strategic partnership, if there's some type of catastrophic failure of equipment, we can have boots on the ground, dispatched, rapidly deployed to your property, and have security guards take over if need
We
be.
actually had a situation like that just recently with one of our construction site customers that somebody had dumped a huge amount of water on their network switch and shorted out the network switch on the construction site. And within an hour, they had boots on the ground and they had security personnel as guards at that facility until they were able to get that put back up.
Rick, I just want to add one other benefit, if I could, and David could speak to this better, but I know on the law enforcement side, sometimes when we needed cameras most and we went to review video, that's when we found out that the person's DVR died like 6 months prior. David, could you speak to the health check of the equipment?
Yeah, that's really important. We actually get a real-time health monitor on the systems there. So we know if there's an internet outage, we know immediately if a camera's not functioning. So we get instant health alerts on all of our customer systems. So it really puts us in a real-time position to be able to communicate and be proactive rather than reactive. And as Charlie says, so often people have had an incident, they go to look at the video and there's no video. We, on the other hand, are very proactive and we know immediately and can notify them as soon as an issue occurs.
Yeah, there was a question about temporary sites. Can this be set up for a temporary location like a construction site?
That's awesome. So yeah, we can do it on a couple of different ways. We can actually set up on telephone poles and go solar and cellular for it, because again, we're not using continuous bandwidth. It allows us to go onto cellular networks. On top of that, we've developed a portable trailer that can actually be quick deployed that has all of our technology on it. And if you have electric and internet, you can just plug it into those. If not, we can go solar on some of those components, but we actually have an actual guard trailer. So if you had kind of a split shift where you maybe during daytime hours, you wanted a physical security guard there and at night you wanted to go electronic, we actually can just deploy a quick trailer on premise to do that, which is really cool. And that's everybody's welcome if they want. We are doing tours of our facility in Bayshore. So if they want to see our command center or see the trailer that we have, the guard trailer that can be used virtually or with real guards, you're welcome to come for tours and just schedule that through myself or through Charlie.
All right, there were a number of questions related to pricing, with the cost to add more cameras, more technology, the cost if we took off a shift. I know a lot of this is one-on-one and we really need to work with each client, but maybe you can talk to generalities.
I'll just give a generality. Generally, if you had physical security guards on site 24/7, we're generally going to be 50% of the cost in general. And again, it's just a ballpark of where we're going to be, but that's our goal, is to try and reduce costs by 50%. On the other hand, if you're going to go to a hybrid solution, it's going to go down, but not by as much as 50%, because obviously you still have physical security guards on staff. But that's kind of a rule of thumb that we generally use, and it's generally in the ballpark, but every site is specific. We have to determine whether you need additional hardware, additional cameras, the internet capabilities at that location, a few things like that. But in general, you can picture up to a 50% savings, which is pretty significant.
All right, so we do have some folks that are asking, okay, what do we do now? We are interested in this. What's our next step?
Just reach out to, our contact information is up on the screen right now. Just email either into A+ or into Maximum. It doesn't matter which one. We're in a true partnership here. Just reach out to us and we'd be happy to help you and get some immediate quotes out to you. So whether you're new or existing customers, we can talk about it on either level. Whether you're an existing customer, it's a matter of just doing some conversions and some stuff. If you're a new customer, we have to do a site survey very often, send somebody on site, one of our engineers, just to survey the site and then make our recommendations. And then sometimes we'll give you additional options for things that you may want to do, but very, very easy to do. Just please reach out to us at your earliest convenience.
And one final question came in was, what happens if someone walks through the gate as opposed to drives through the gate?
Yeah, I think Charlie had addressed that before, but we use in a lot of our systems, we use a radar system on top of that. And the radar system picks up any moving objects in the area that a guard may miss, especially in pure darkness. On top of that, when we do have appropriate lighting, our cameras are trained to do that on the hours that we're set to be doing that. So we can either set up cameras to do that, use radar systems to do that. And we have other technologies that we even use, laser technology that can actually pick up moving objects. So we have a whole bunch of different technologies depending on the severity of the situation. We can even, ironically, create virtual walls around a facility. We have the ability through thermal imaging and through laser technology to be able to create and cameras to be able to create a virtual perimeter protection around a property, especially valuable for car dealerships, because a lot of times people come in from the backside of a dealership, steal the tires and rims and catalytic converters, and they're never picked up because they never came onto the front of the property. So that's a great question, and glad we could answer that.
Okay, and I know we got specific questions about markets from Joe, John, and Patrick. We will address those directly after the call. So thank you, gentlemen, for sending those in. They're very niche to their market and their region that they're in. So
excellent.
But I think that is the end of the questions. David and Charlie, thank you so much for being with us today. Terrific job as always. And we will be following up with everyone with today's recording of the event. And if you want to set up any appointments to review with your specific environment, certainly reach out to all of us. So
Thanks,
thank you very much.
Thank you for hosting it, Rick. Thank you very much.
Take care. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone.